I guess, give a little bit of an introduction about to Etobicoke and ourselves, and then just go over some of the work that we do right now, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then like field some questions afterwards. Um, so I guess we should flip sides, but my name is Stefan. I'm one of the co-founders of Etobicoke with my brother. My background is in professional engineering, so I studied civil engineering originally at Waterloo, and now I work part-time actually as an urban planner currently. So like a lot of like different projects, like bike lane related and things like that around the city of Toronto and the GTA. And then the other half of my week and plus then some is running Etobicoke for the last 5 years with my brother.
Yeah, and I'm Lucas. I'm one of the other co-founder of Atoba here, and my background is in skilled trades. Like Stefan, work part-time, and I work as a diesel technician and mechanic, and um, also do some contracting work here and there as well. So this is like a lot of stories that we heard here today. Ours began during COVID, not necessarily affected by it, but rather grew from it. We initially started, as Rhonda mentioned, in the basement of the house that Stefan and I were renting together at the time back in 2020. And, all of these sort of gardens that were coming about during COVID and the scarcity of garden plants and everything really invigorated our sort of desire to be more food sovereign ourselves. And we started in our backyard as food automation and auto watering systems because it was quite an elaborate farming setup that we had. We decided to keep the fun going into the winter months and bring our installation indoors and kind of develop our own controlled environment within our own basement.
Yeah, so this is our first CEA or controlled environment agriculture facility that we built. Pictured here are some tomatillo plants. We were just really messing about with every bit of hydroponic technology we could get our hands on at the time. Um, and yeah, this is, I guess, the first CEA we built. It's basically the size, a little bit smaller actually than the room that we're in now, which is at our current farm in North York. I guess not to jump too far ahead, but it was quite small. Um, we played around with a whole bunch of different growing techniques, like I mentioned early on, growing like in growed in slabs and everything, just to try to push the limits of it. But pretty quickly, we settled in on growing leafy greens with this technology, and we really wanted to find a way to jumpstart our business. So in the first season, we actually ran an online garden order campaign. So you can see the little sign there in the top left. I ordered my garden online. We still do that. It's entering our sixth season this coming spring, which is really exciting. We totally forgot to celebrate the fifth one this year, but oh well, that happens. Um, and we quickly grew out of our basement and into a neighbor's garage, which you can kind of see on the left there. I had a great mustache at the time. And yeah, we from there we got into markets, and then quickly realized we needed even more space. And on the right there is the towers that we moved in with to our current facility in North York. We don't have any like reno videos or photos handy for this right now, but if you go to our Instagram, there's a whole reel about like our farm, and it shows you all like the elbow grease and yeah, labor that went into transforming this current facility from um, a used tire storage, I guess, like
Like a used auto bay.
yeah,
Yeah.
just stuffed with tires to what you can see here in the photos.
Um,
So yeah, I guess like we've always continued to build those. This is like the current tower setup we have, but we're never really satisfied with where we're at. You can see here there's some plants laid out on the left there just for like a day of building, and then on the right there's an overhead of one of our newer towers that we put in with. We're always trying to get more and more floor space out of our farm. So this is like an extension of our current mezzanine that we built out about 2 years ago.
that's right.
That I pictured there.
Yeah, and at Etobicoke, we employ shallow water culture hydroponics. So all of our plants grow in floating foam rafts that sit on top of beds of nutrient water. And it goes through a recirculating sort of system. So nutrient water gets pumped into the flood tables, drains out at the other end, filters out before it recollecting into a reservoir located below the towers. The water gets reconditioned, it gets chilled and then it gets sent back up to the plants. And that's a constant cycle that's running 24/7 on our farm.
Yeah, so our farm never really sleeps in that sense. The lights go off in the morning just so we can save on peak hour electrical. That said, our electrical bills are surprisingly affordable for our scale. We currently actually we teach a course in vertical farming at Humber College. We always like to ask the question of what people think the most expensive thing to run on the farm is, and it's always like, oh, is it lighting? But it's actually the exhaust fans, just because there's so much air you need to move, and they're running 24/7. Whereas the lights are kind of off. I guess they're on 18 hours a day right now, and then
Yeah.
the room we're in actually is like our flowering room. So we move our we have like a 3-year-old pepper plant that we move inside again for the winter, and it grows in here with like a 12-hour schedule. So we try to fit as much as we can to the space. And that said, we've continued to kind of grow outside of it as well. So um, about 3 years ago now, we hired Laura. You can see on the right there, working on our rooftop. We had like a deep water culture system growing some sunflowers and a whole bunch of other fun things up there this summer. And then Ryan was our co-op student from Waterloo that we hired a couple times actually last summer and then the fall before. And he's helping us last summer with painting out the outside of the farm about a year ago. So continuing to kind of grow outside and also with like yeah, just like staff and everything as well. Um, and
Yeah, we offer so recently at Atobergrow we started to offer things like tours and workshops through our partnership with like Humber College and other organizations. We host groups very regularly in our farm to learn a little bit more about the practical uh, efforts that kind of go into vertical farming, and they really get hands-on with like the seeding, as our farm manager Laura is sort of exemplifying in that second image there on the right. Um, and yeah, it gives students an opportunity to get hands-on and really experience the work firsthand and see the technology up close. There's really not a lot of examples of hydroponic vertical farms in the GTA, and we really want to be a hub for people to come to us for as a resource for things like knowledge and for hydroponic supplies too. Happy to direct people in those kind of directions
yeah.
as well.
So we've kind of always, at the onset, even when you're working out of our basement, we kind of had a few different pillars to our business that we wanted to kind of keep in mind throughout. And we kind of wanted to grow, but kind of simultaneously. Some of them grew a little bit more rapidly than others. Early on, we started to grow, commercially grow basil for Italian restaurants in the city, and have kind of expanded that selection to some other products as well. But that's been pretty steady over the last, like, I guess, 4 years now.
Mhm.
And in that process, we've continued to grow other segments of our business. So early on, you can tell Lukas and I were really into designing and building things. Um, and we've since gotten back into that. We've always been doing that, but now we're doing it as on a contract basis for different nonprofits and organizations in the city as well. So a whole bunch of really exciting projects on the go right now. Education was the other kind of that key pillar that we want to always work
Mhm.
on as well. So we have some partnerships with school boards this year in the city. So the Toronto School Board, the Catholic School Board, and some private schools as well. In addition to our work at Humber College. So what we're trying to really do is uh, encourage and promote urban farming in any form that you can. And I think that this is a really, I guess, stimulating way to grow. You can do it all year. If you put together the parts right, and it's really kind of a little more foolproof, I think, than people have experienced growing plants in soil a lot of the time. And it's a little bit easier, I think, to kind of comprehend the pieces that go into it.
Mhm.
And we really tried to get that, like, spell it out for people and help them, like, at least find what they are most inspired by in that process. And through that now we've continued to kind of do this work, as I mentioned, on our rooftop. And this is an early prototype that we built this summer. It was growing like a couple hundred heads of lettuce a week in this space. And we're now expanding to the rooftop next summer. And we're working on some design build projects for a few different clients. We're now the People with AIDS Foundation in Toronto. We're working on a future rooftop farm for them. So this is kind of all part of that prototyping process to get things running and that proof of concept for them, and gives us a better sense for how to build them at scale as well for other people. Like we're pretty limited in our space, 600 square feet, but we make a lot of use of it.
Mhm.
And we're really excited to be doing that now for other people as well. Um, I think, yeah, this one here, Lucas wants to.
Yeah, so this is one of the food sovereign solutions that we're building for the Parkdale Food Bank. This is going to act as their primary nursery in their space, and essentially it'll allow them to grow 600 seedlings a week, I think, right? And this will allow them to grow plants either to full maturity or what will eventually become their sort of nursery phase, and then these plants will get transplanted into a larger wall installation there, where the plants will essentially finish growing for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think is that my this is another slide, but I'll hop over that project in a second too. So we've also started a project with York University, helping them do new layout for like stairwell area like this. That used to be a garden bed space, and now we're converting it into a hydroponic farm for them, which is really exciting. Came about with this opportunity for our program. One of the learners in it was worked at York University's Maloka Indigenous Garden. I always forget the acronym. The mill um, is the place, but it's been really fun lately getting into these projects and kind of getting back to our roots of that kind of inspiring people to grow for themselves. Um, and I'll just show a schematic. So this is like an early drawing that we did for the Parkdale unit that you can see now that we were showing photos of previously. And then the wall boat that Lucas is mentioning, this is a rendering that we prepared earlier that we're making. So it'll be about 16 feet tall total. And you can kind of see on the right there, there's like a side view. It's going to be multiple channels in each level. So like NFT, very similar technology to what we use in our farm here,
Mhm.
but smaller scale and a little bit easier to kind of operate with in that environment. It really like keeps the footprint small. And as Lucas mentioned, this will grow them about yeah 300 and a little over 300 heads of fresh produce a week. So
Yeah.
that's really exciting for them. They've got a great new space, Parkdale, off Brock Avenue. If you haven't been by to check it out yet, it's pretty good what they have going there. So yeah, we're really excited about this, and we're hoping to get this one installed. I guess like late January, in time for their 1 year anniversary in the space.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that kind of just covers, I guess that's where we are now. Just like growing, designing, building, teaching, a bit of everything. And
We've always been a really scrappy sort of business, kind of pulling together all of the kind of pieces that we sort of have and make do with what we got, sort of growing incrementally and not biting off more than we can chew has really allowed us to develop a lot of different avenues of revenue for ourselves. And also, they're just a lot of fun for too. So you got to be able to find yourself work that you find fulfilling too.
mhm.
Hmm. Well, and that's fabulous because I think there are so many examples of CEA farms that have collapsed because they've grown far too big, far too fast. So to hear the two of you building up your business in a sensible way, in and following what you're interested in is brilliant, and that's really what I wanted our students to hear. And it's so fascinating. I've seen this trend of people starting off as growing and then moving on to supporting other people to grow. And so we've kind of heard all three of those. Jocelyn, you said at the beginning you moved away from being a service business and into a manufacturing business, and we're hearing this kind of multi-directional change. So this is really what I did want people to hear, is that you can do that transition and be very successful. So thank you so much, Stefan and Lukas, for sharing that story. And now, last but of course not at all least, Jessey. Jessey, Judith talked a little bit about many hands, but we are also quite eager to hear your take on it. So feel free to talk about Zawadi and many hands and whatever.
Yeah, I just wanted to peel back to the previous talks. Sorry, I apologize, I was late. But hearing what Lukas and his brother are doing, I mean, it's really, really important that we understand what Etobicoke Grow as a pillar to our resiliency arc. So if you hear about Zawadi, what I talk about is, there's no reason why we should be under a food insecure policy that we are under right now, that we have no food in our cities and food banks are running short, and there's this scarcity complexity that's really taken over our cities and our foodscapes. So when you hear projects like Itobi Grow, you better understand that we are, as Awadi and even Harambe, we link up with them quite a bit. We represent them in our marketplace. We make sure that people around us understand that we are an ecosystem and not just one single business, doing work as a silo. That's very important to me, that is lauded so much. If you ever interact with Zawadi or myself, you will know that you will hear more. You will hear my project, yes, Zawadi, but you better understand the other pillars and shoulders that I'm standing on. Gigi Prince, who spoke earlier, is one of those pillars and shoulders that I would not be here today doing what I'm doing if she wasn't part of the equation. And same thing to Toby Grow. So these are very important conversations. So when I present Zawadi, this is what I talk about: is we need to have that cohesive collective calibration. So when we have the students, which is the academics, we have the businesses, and we have the investors, we have everyone. All of us are interconnected some way, somehow. When you hear Itobi Grow now is educating in schools, we as Zawadi, we're now approved vendors of the TDSB. So we're going to schools and presenting and developing workshop programs. And this year we started with Peel Region also. So when we created a microgreen project, indoor growing projects for them, and it's growing. There's a need for people to understand what the food conversation is. So for those who don't know who I am, my name is Jessey Zhao, and I'm the founder of Zawadi Farm. And my project started similar to many, backyard, very. But as most of you who know me, I am not a small thinker. I think big. I think my goal is to close the loop on food. My goal is to make sure that food becomes such a boring conversation that how we work, and anyone who visits us will just see how effective our foodscape is, from backyards, front yards, rooftops, whatever way we grow food. It's just the way the fabric of the city functions. And the challenges we have right now, seriously, are just bureaucratic. Nothing really blocking us from making sure we actually are connected. Over the winter of last year, I called out the mayor when she broadcasted that we are food insecure, and I called her out, and I met with their team. And honestly, it's the issues we're faced is not that we don't have food. The issue we're facing in Toronto is that the food that we have is not connected. So Gigi and I worked really hard at Downsview Park, and I cannot laud her presence enough, because with her support, Harambe was formed, and we are now working with the Toronto food shelters. And every week we have about 70 plus shares that are going into chefs. And one of my favorite things we get sometimes is chefs calling us saying, guys, we can't take any more food. We have enough, because whatever came last week is enough for us for this week. Please stop. And it's one of those moments I'm like, could you please capture that on camera? Because you just send us, and I'm going to make a plaque of this. And that has happened consistently. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because the challenge we're faced with at Zawadi is we see where the need of food is, but we see the bureaucratic chaos that stops it from coming in. Coming to this meeting, one of the questions that was pressed upon us was retention, customer retention. How do we keep our CSA members coming back every year from our previous sessions? And we actually close our CSA. In fact, this week is our last CSA week, and we go dark until the next year, and we call them back again, and they come back. And the reason is that story, that narrative of what you're helping is the true definition of community supported agriculture. What you're supporting us allows us to do the work that we do. Our food that we grow with Harambe goes to shelters. I'm sure Gigi will talk about her connections with the moms in her network who receive our foods. And some of them actually tell, we get word from them that they are, in a space whereby they have enough food from the CSA program that they have enough to sustain them throughout the winter. Those are kind of those conversations we want to have more in our city and propelled more into other things. The biggest challenge I have as a Wadi, of course, is even Gigi and I, we cannot feed Toronto. But I can tell you this for a fact, and I'm sure she can loud with me too. We want to be the best example of that approach. So the way we farm, how we farm, and the programs we use, the crop planning that we create, the rotations we do, how we manage our teams, how we manage the land, how we manage our sales, everything is documented because we want it to be a replicable model. So that if you have land, we can show you exactly how to utilize that space, and we're commercial. We're for profit. So because we have staff and we have rent, we are leasing land from Downsview Park, and we have to pay rent, we have to pay for water, we have to pay for resources. But we are keen on the values of what we give to our property so that it does not, we don't dilute the space, we don't destroy the space. So we create it in a way that it is able to sustainfully work beyond us. For those of you who do not know, our farms are in Downsview Park. I'm sure Gigi mentioned earlier, it's with our collective called the Many Hands Collective, and it's a group of 6 partners. And the context with that is we carrying a lease with Canada Lands Company, and that's a federal institution that is how can I put it? Not even the landlords, but yeah, I can call them landlords of Downsview Park. And we have been working very hard over the past winter, actually before the winter, into the winter, and into this season to acquire a stable land lease. One of the major challenges with urban farmers is access to growing spaces. And the difficulty with that is the very transient. You're in for a minute and it'll be taken from you. You either have a house that has a backyard, or you have a building that somebody helped you to get, or you have all the other resources that somebody has supported you to build a project. But if you're coming in cold and you're leasing something, that could be taken away from you any moment. And so why did we had that same problem with us when we first started at Angus Farm? We put so much effort in the land, and later the land was taken back because as many of you would know, doing urban farming projects, you create value that was not there. And as soon as the people that see the value of what's not there, they will take it from you and you have nothing to say. So Gigi and I saw this from a while ago, and we said we got to put our heads together, make sure that we have a strong lease, and the team work together. And now we have a very strong lease, 10 plus 5 plus 5, which is giving us a 20-year lease in Toronto to farm, which is tremendous because now our investments can hold, our investments can grow, and we can extend now our capacity past thinking of we could be gone next year. We could be gone next year to no, we're here now, put the stake down and let's go. So what we've done now with Downsview, with Ubuntu and Zawadi have collected our resources together, and we go to, I'm sure she mentioned that we go to farmers markets and we do CSAs. But over and above that, we also bring in schools to come and spend time at the farm. So TDSB schools come by, George Brown School of Culinary Arts comes by. So these are chefs in training, and we teach them how to really connect to a local grower and how that navigation works. And then in November, I go to their kitchens and we cook what we created. So they create food from what they picked up from the farm. So they get to actually fully grasp and understand those connections before they go to their own or create their own kitchens. So those are the kind of efforts we put together. And we also, of course, allow volunteers to come through. Salesforce, for example, and other corporate institutions come by the farm to spend a day with us, and we put them through the ringer. We don't as much as I'd love to say I treat them nice, I don't because they're lifting so much and doing so much work. But they love it. There's love it. There's that reciprocity conversation that comes by with them. But let me not be too long-winded. But the Zawadi project is quite simple. We want to solve three areas of small-scale farming, which is first is the stewardship. Stewards are individuals that we want to build that know how to manage and grow projects like ours, and understand their value as persons in that space. Because as much as we want to do and see the projects that are big, the biggest challenge right now, even my own mentors are falling apart and projects are dying off because you may have the biggest heart, you may have the biggest energy, but this thing will drain you if you don't take care of yourself and not part of a community. So that's a huge, huge negative to our community. We work in silos in some projects and some problems. So mental health is we're losing a lot of like my mentors right now. I meet with them all the time, and I'm within the next year or so. Actually, the end of this season, I'm losing about two, three, four of them, and their projects are going dead, which is an incredibly sad scenario. And so I want to make sure that does not continue because that's a dangerous flow. We can't lose these projects because they however way they're incentivized to begin are solving a very specific problem in the city when it comes to food access. And losing them, we lose a lot. So we can't lose that. So stewardship is important, not just the building of them, but the caring of them and also the protecting them. But stewards need land. So how do you create a space that they can grow and they can know how to manage that space? You can't have one without the other. So Zawadi as it is like, for example, at Downsview Park, we have staff this year. This is a crazy thing. Like we have staff. Like it was unbelievable. I cannot even just. Oh man, it was odd. I was laughing with the Toby Grow team that I was able to like we have staff. I can actually think. I can actually step out and work keeps going, and it was such a blessing to have that kind of ability to bring in stewards and give them property and protect them and say you're safe to work, you're safe in the environment you're in, and the food you're growing now goes to the biggest challenge now, which is the third piece, which is now the market. How do you create a market that knows that its value protects those two major things? It protects the land and protects the stewards. So that to me is a very key problem of Toronto right now because the way food is conversed and interacted, and you can check this with any of your friends and ask them the meal they ate or whatever food they had, where it came from, and there's this sense of I do not know where anything is from, and it's getting heavier. And it's just the way of it's not just a Toronto problem, by the way. It's a global issue where the food is becoming more and more and more expensive. Even local food is harder to access than food that is conventionally grown. The math itself, I wish there's an economist in our group to give me a one-on-one class because the math does not math in my books. Like how is the food that I grow more expensive than a conventional farm? But I guess I may need a lot of education to that. But that is a problem because when we go to markets, these are the conversations we get, almost like a deterrent because all they look at us is you're too expensive. Your product has too much cost around it. So how do you change that narrative? How do you change people from being consumers to be investors, to understand that their participation is actually almost like a shareholder to a farm? Your money you give us, you give to Tobacco, you give to Zawadi or Ubuntu, that actually helps the project here, right? It helps us become better stewards. We help us become better to develop better products. As you saw with the Tobacco projects and the things they're doing, that's the money that comes from the projects that they do locally. You know what I'm saying? So that is what we want to. How do you tell our community that they are the investors of these projects, and whatever output comes from it is actually beneficial, dividendal, multi-generational, because that land that's good, it's good forever, not good for a short time, right? That knowledge that's here is permeable to any person. You don't have to be a university graduate. I mean, we hire kids from high school and coming to work for us for the summer jobs programs, and I'm sure the Etobicoke team does the same with students that come in, and we are liberal with education because we know we can't feed the city collect like ourselves. We need more of us. So it's a challenge that we want to loud, but the consumers need to change from being that to become shareholders of the projects and seeing themselves as part of that fabric. And it's a challenge that I'm taking on because without either one of them, the whole system crumbles. If you don't protect the farmers, you don't protect the land, the whole system literally shuts down. Right. And if a market's not there to support that infrastructure, the whole system shuts down. And we're seeing that, right? That we're losing our farmers, we're losing our land, and hence our market is not responding to how much we have in our pockets. So those are elements we're seeing as problematic. So we're working really hard on this, and as most of you know, this is very, very near and dear to my heart, and I'm doing everything in my capacity to make sure that we expand the visibility of every one of our projects. Zawad is just one microcosm of many beautiful and exciting projects. I'm sure those are presented today. You'll see it. If those who missed it, the recording will be there. You'll see them. But my goal is to make sure that we become a very boring story. And when it comes to cities, like, oh, you guys, local farm, okay, that's it's just the way Toronto works. It's the way Mississauga, Brampton, whatever. It's so boring. Oh, what else? What else, guys? What else do you guys do?
Oh,
That should
what a
be
great
the constant.
vision. I
So
can't
thank you for your
imagine,
time.
Jesse, I can't imagine you ever being boring. And I love the thought of local healthy food being a boring story someday. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Jesse, for being here.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry we didn't book 3 hours for this because I feel like we could all listen all night. But I do want to make sure that we have some time for questions because all of our audience here has been listening for almost a couple of hours now. I'm sure you have so many questions to ask of our speakers. So I will start off with just one question that our students submitted earlier. Thank you, Jesse. You actually answered one of Isabel's questions, so that's good. But Isabel did bring another question for Lukas and Stefan. So I'm going to read her introduction. She said there's background noise, so she won't unmute herself now. Hi, my name is Isabel. My long-term vision is a hyper-local, self-sustaining, farm-to-table bar. To get there, I have a two-pronged strategy, a hyper-local market box focusing on unique herbs, microgreens, and fermented goods as the initial revenue-generating product, and a digital platform documenting my progress. So again, producing and teaching at the same time. This is the recurring theme. So Isabel's question for Lukas and Stefan is, you've mastered growing for chefs who need reliability. For subscription box, customers also expect consistency. What are your strategies for ensuring a steady, predictable yield of high-value greens and herbs in a small space, regardless of weather?
Great question, Isabel, and pleasure to meet you. And also, I love the vision for your farm and business. That sounds like a great enterprise to take under, to take on. But I guess to kind of tackle your question, I think the best way to kind of ensure consistency, like the first step, I think, is to also have consistency in sales and revenues as well. So, like, where are you going to be bringing it? Who are you growing it for? Pretty much everything. Apologies for the camera shaker. It's a strange, like, tripod situation. Um, we're building a concrete counter in here, so we're like squished in the corner because it's on the floor on the left. Um, but yeah, I think finding consistency there is the most important thing. So you know what your pipeline is and what you're growing it, who you're growing it for, and how much you're growing for them, and what you're going to get from it on revenue wise as well. All those things, all those factors are going to dictate the how you grow it and the quality that you grow it to as well. So many other factors to consider in that process too. So I think that's step number one is know who you're growing it for. Nothing on our farm grows, like everything on our farm is already spoken for, like 6 weeks out essentially. So that just ensures that we have a pipeline ready, and if we want to take on new customers, it takes some time to get new products growing ourselves. Like it can take like 6 to 8 weeks, depending on if we have season inventory or not, to
Hmm.
get a new variety going. And so there's a commitment like to that as well. So I think starting with I don't know what your garden, like your plant acumen is, but maybe starting smaller with like a fewer varieties that you can really nail down, I think is a really good approach to start with. And then we've kind of slowly added more over the years. And our farm manager, Laura, who you saw with the sunflower, is kind of I guess the farm's botanist in a way. She really is great with plants. That's one of the main reasons we hired her originally too. Um,
Yeah, and Laura was our first hire from University of Waterloo for co-op students. And when you're hiring co-op students every 4 months, you really want to focus on having the role be
exactly.
as simple as possible and quick and make it intuitive to pick up for anybody, basically. And when Stefan and I were handing over the reins of the daily farm operations over to an employee, it really gave us the ability to look at the role objectively and focus on refining it even further and looking for inefficiencies and looking for ways and tools to help make those processes more efficient. And a lot of our time, basically our first year after hiring a farm operator, was spent refining the role even further, making sure that the process kept the farm safe. It was allowed the employee to work less arduously. And, when you make those kind of sort of refinements, you really get a better perspective on the role, I guess.
Yeah, and it helps to get that process down and consistent as well. So once you get a consistent process going, with consistent outputs, then you're going to get consistent results as well. So it
Yeah.
lets you iterate, and if you do something wrong one time, you can reproduce the same thing again. So just kind of take steps with it, and be sure to always evaluate each step of the way and reflect on like, oh, what would I have done differently to do it next time? And you'll kind of get that consistency over time, but you need to have that kind of base level to start with so that you can kind of measure your performance off of that, if that makes sense, especially if you're striving for that quality consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Stefan mentioned, you definitely want to have buyers already set for anything that you're growing. Like a phrase in the industry is that it's really easy to grow plants, but it's hard to sell them. And you don't want to rely too much on let's say on markets that can be, inconsistent in, the number of people that attend them on a weekly basis, right? And you really have to find a way to diversify your revenues and the way that you distribute your product. And it goes back to also uh, when you're growing something, you want to grow more than one kind of variety, right? You want to have lots of offerings, right? To um, sort of make it a much more easy for people to be able to purchase from you, right? Because we now grow like several different varieties of basil because the chefs that we already provide crops to sort of requested those things. So now it's allowed us to kind of generate more revenue that way.
Yeah, we grow microgreens just for clients that we already have. We don't have microgreen only clients as an example. Just I'd also recommend maybe just as a general quote unquote like plug for the program, the vertical agriculture micro credential that we lectured at Humber College is excellent. It gives you a really great overview of the indoor farming industry, ways to get started in it, and some of the key fundamental processes behind all of it. So if you're interested in that, I think yeah, you probably do a little Google of it and it'll pop up. But it's vertical agriculture and controlled environments at Humber College. Yeah, we've had a couple learners actually start some businesses out of it. So and a few more will get hired. So it's been pretty great.
Yeah, if you have a chance to drop a link in the chat, but it sounds like it's an easy one to Google. That's great. Sure. So we've got maybe 13 minutes left. If people want to either drop a question into the chat or unmute yourself, raise your hand, uh, jump up and down and yell. Uh, all of the above is okay. I know there's been a lot to digest. Oh, Karina, there you are. Hello.
Hello, how is everyone? What a great. Oh my gosh, I'm like in the dark trying to conserve energy here. We were talking about that, right? There you go. But I was really interested in maybe a question for Jesse. You were saying that you've now become a uh like a vendor, an official vendor for the TDSB. And I'm just wondering about that process. I'm interested in also bringing my product into schools, but I find the TDSB, I find it's very overwhelming and I'm really not finding my way in. So I'm just wondering, maybe we can have a longer conversation at one point, but maybe just a little bit speaking about that, if you could.
Sure. I get this question asked so many times, and I tell them I have a confession to make because I didn't even know that that vendor space was open or available at all. Somebody just approached me at the farm and asked if I do provide or have access to TDSB, and I said no. And she happened to have the contact of the lead decision maker of the whole project, and they just connected me directly to them, and I presented what your farm does. And it took a minute. Of course, there's a lot of things you have to do as far as, because you're handling youth and schools and
Yeah.
children at your property, and you going there, so police checks and having concussion protocols and just safety protocols, and there's so many insurance and coverages. There's a whole slew of things I had to go through to get it. But I can't say I started the process and finished it. No, I have been. My whole story has been this. To be honest with you, just really fortunate to have really people who understand the value of our project and connecting us with that. That said, since I went through the project, the process, I'm happy to share with you what I have learned and how to go through it. But I'm telling you, it's a lot of bureaucracy, and
Mm,
there'll be a lot of back and forth to what and why. And please, as I think was said here before, know your why, because
hmm
that's going to be the one thing that will push back on. Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? Our connection with them was multifaceted, but we present ourselves as a farm. So that allows us to talk food, talk education, and talk also the biggest piece of the equation, which is rehabilitation. So that way we can come into schools and work with their properties there to create food conversations in that. So that was quite a big one. So I can share with you offline the process, and you and I can connect further. I'm sure Rhonda has my contacts if you need to reach me.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more to you, Jesse. I'm really inspired by everything that you've done, and thanks so much for sharing with us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
And thanks for the question. Would anyone else like to step up with a question? Jesse, a quick other Jesse, a quick question for Maria. Do you also teach about the healing benefits of herbs?
Yeah, so basically, I'll teach you everything you ask me for about herbs. If it has to do with herbs, I'm going to tell you about it. And so I work with everything from growing and soil care to harvest, process, drying, preservation, transformation, alchemy, proper dosage. And I always encourage everybody to be as simple as they can.
Hmm.
So, Stefan and Lukas just talked about this, like starting small. Like, I didn't always grow 85 different herbs, but now I am because I've been building this garden for 10 years. And so many of the herbs that I grow are wild foods, they're perennials, they can come back. So, but I also am crazy about basil. So, I grow like 9 different varieties of basil every year. So, yeah, I mean, and then different. different entryways for different ways of knowing it. Like I can do a private workshop, or you can come and do hands-on and work with us for free all through the growing season, or you can be part of the study group that happens in the winter. Or, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can access it, but you can make your own group. I can teach you a private workshop. We can make it just for what you want. I've gone to schools like the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine or the Gardner Museum because they had a exhibition and they wanted me to do a tea making workshop. So it's really tailored to passionate about herbs, and I want people to, like, my aspect of farming is I want to give you the tools so that you can empower yourself for your own wellness, like from a herbal perspective. And like the food security part, that Jessey, you're such an eloquent and motivating speaker. I just love listening to you talking. That I have that same perspective, but with a slant on herbs, because for herbs, they're small. You need very little space. And so many people in Toronto have a pot. If they have access to something, they might have a pot. They might have a windowsill. You can grow herbs in a hydroponic situation. You can grow herbs under a grow light in your place. So it's very accessible for people, and it's very empowering to know that I grew this herb and it calms me down. It helps me feel better when I'm, in a certain situation. And so I really will teach anyone anything they want to know about herbs.